Wonderful. Round of applause for that. Yeah. Please join me in welcoming Miss Stacey Nybeck. Yes.
Thank you so much. Kids, my grandkids, can't stand it. So like she said, it'll actually be 32 years this year that I've been married to my husband. And it's been hard. And anybody, I'm sure, who's married, you get it. It's hard. There's a lot of hard. There's a lot of good. One thing I don't have in there is we also have a dog, which in one of the sessions was like the dog is the therapeutic. You know, he's always happy to see me come home. No matter how bad of a mood I'm in, he's like right there ready to see me. So it's been a good day. The speakers are phenomenal. Did you guys all enjoy it? And that's what I'm thinking to myself, like, so this is the first time I've ever, this is me going to be real. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. I am scared to death. So you guys are going to be like my guinea pigs today. But the speakers today have just been phenomenal. And I'm hoping today, like as I'm sitting there today listening to all the speakers, I was like, there's so many little pieces that each one mentioned that I think we're going to kind of pull together with this today. So I was kind of excited that this is kind of pulling it all together. And I'm also nervous because I'm the only thing between you and the open bar and networking or going home or whatever it is you're looking forward to or perhaps dreading what's next. But so I'll try to make it fun, make it cool. We actually, thank you. We actually, did she? Okay. We actually started this, so I had, just to give you a little bit of background, I had an incident occur at work, and it was, I do have some of my staff here with me and some friends in the audience, so it was a highly racial situation. Somebody had posted things on social media, Facebook, that were highly offensive, okay? And it was at that point in time, we live in a tiny, tiny town in northeast Pennsylvania. I think I had written that, we're known for our library in the middle of a flood, our library washed into the middle of the highway that goes through town. Like those are the things, that we're not known for anything else. But anyway, it came to, I've worked with the same CEO for the 33 years I've been at Serve. I've worked with the same CEO, and it really came to our attention like we needed to do something. Like our staff didn't even realize they had done something wrong and didn't understand that. So that's how we came about really looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we can go into that whole situation where this is why it's wrong, this is the law. But I think we went a little bit further and we found this, what I think is a really unique program to show our staff, like, this is the role you play. It's not just about the law. It's not just about what's right and wrong. It's about considering the role you play in this entire situation. So our topic today, I was already there, is let's talk about you. So it's going to look at your role in diversity, equity, inclusion. And those are incredibly important, obviously, for you personally, for you and professionally. But the model we're going to look at, I think, can be applied to just about every area of your life, not just at work, but in any of your relationships, with your friends, with your coworkers, with your significant others, your partners, your children. And we're going to talk about the 5 roles people play, the purpose of those roles, and why they're important, what drives people in those specific roles. So who here tries to come up with a word every year that they're going to focus on for the year? Really? Only a couple? Really? All right. So in 2021, my word, I couldn't pick my word. And we were in the middle of COVID, and it just felt like it was just nuts. So and joy kept coming back to me as being my word for the month of 2021. And I kept like, no, I don't know, that's not the word I want. And then it was finally one of my very best friends passed away, and her middle name was Joy. And it was at that point where it was like, all right, and it was January of 2021 that she passed away. So I'm like, all right, yep, I got it. Joy is my word for the year. So, but I think when we go back through, we can all think of situations that didn't bring us a lot of joy. Whether we all go through things in life that are really hard to go through. So, and it was kind of funny because for Christmas of 2020, my husband had gotten me a book on joy, and the whole mantra was, my happy has deep roots. So I continuously just kept going back to that of, my happy has deep roots, my happy has deep roots, and trying to remind myself of that. So we think of, so we're going to look at your role in diversity, equity, inclusion, but we're also going to look at your attitude, our attitude, my attitude, how hard it is to keep that attitude in check sometimes, and then sometimes thinking about, how deep is our happy? Does our happy have deep roots? Is it there when we need it the most in our lives? So we're going to talk about the 5 roles that people play. And when we look at those 5 roles, I forget that I have this right here. When we look at those 5 roles, we have the pioneer, the champion, the influencer, the hesitator, and the obstructor. And it's okay as we go through these because full disclosure, I can honestly say that in multiple situations in my life, I have played every single one of these roles. So do not think, I don't want to be the obstructor, because I think if we're honest with ourselves, we've all been there. So when we look at these, each of the 5 roles has a definition, and with that definition, it also determines what our behavior is in every situation. You have to understand that specific role that you're playing is reflected in the way you talk and how you communicate with people and how they communicate back with you, because they might have a different role than what you do. So that all plays in there. And when you know why you do the things you do, that there's a purpose in why you do the things you do, why you say the things you do, your motivation, the uniqueness in your personality, your perspective, and even how your self-talk drives you. It helps you understand that role. So we all have the ability to make change and, make positive, bold change, not just for ourselves, but also for the people around you. So let's look specifically at these roles. So I'm going to introduce you to everybody who's sitting at the table, okay? Again, we have the pioneer, the champion, the hesitator, or the influencer, the hesitator, and the obstructor. So first off, we're going to look at the pioneer. So the pioneer are those people who, they create a vision, they cast a vision for change. These are the people that are really motivated by wanting to bring out the best, not only in themselves, but also in their organizations, with their friends, with their coworkers. These people are, they identify as being empowered, and they also want to empower others. They want to come alongside everybody else. And the pioneer tends to ask themselves questions like, is this wrong? And what can I do to make it right? What can I do to lead us through this change? That's the pioneer's self-talk. So I want you to think, this is kind of your moment here to have a little self-reflection of, are you a pioneer? Do you cast that vision for change? Do you create the change? Once you know that there's something there that needs to be fixed, do you go out and fix it? Are you motivated to do your best? And also, to bring out the best in everyone around you? Are you empowered, and do you want to empower others? We're all here today at the Empower Women's Conference. Are you going to take this back to your organizations and empower others with the information that you've gained today? When you see that something's wrong, do you try to make it right? Do you want the world and your organization to be safe for everyone? So now we're going to look at the champions. Excuse me. And the champion wants to support the vision. They're the person that's going to come alongside the pioneer. They are also motivated. They want to be on the winning team. They're supportive of the team. Their self-talk is, what can I do to help? Where can I add value? The champion wants to bring structure to the organization, and they want to be able to support the vision and make the organization as inclusive and as effective as possible. So they're the ones who celebrate every step forward. Every time the organization is making a step forward, they celebrate that move. So I want you to think about it. If you identified yourself in that champion column, are you motivated? Do you come alongside and support the pioneer? Are you supportive to create a winning team? Do you ask yourself, what can I do to help? Do you look for opportunities to add value to your coworkers and to your friends? Do Do you celebrate the wins and encourage those around you? Does your behavior promote positivity? That's a big one for me. Like, I have to think about that because my behavior does not always support positivity. And the next role, the influencer. So the influencer's purpose is to carry the message out to the community. They're the candle lighters. They want to light everybody's candle. And, they're enthusiastic. They're the cheerleaders. Their self-talk is, how can I spread the word? How can I get others to join me in making this change and making the world better? And then how can I take this even further than what, just inside the room? And the influencer wants to bring their voice to life and to move with intention and with purpose. So again, think about it. Do you light the candles of others? Are you promoting promoting positivity? Are you the peacemaker? I think about, I even think you can think about your kids and you can kind of tell which one of your kids might play some of these roles too. But do you like being, are you the peacemaker? Do you like being busy? Do you like going the extra mile, doing more than what's expected of you? Do you work with intention and purpose? So, think about those things as you're going through those lists and kind of identifying your role. And I do, your role is going to change depending on the specific situation, whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, or, another problem or situation in your life. So let's talk about the hesitator. The hesitator is the one who wants to wait and see. They want to be able to observe from a distance. They don't want to rock the boat. Everything's going to be okay kind of people. They want to keep everything status quo. And the hesitator often feels responsible. And their self-talk is this safe for me? Is this safe for the organization? Is this safe for everybody around me? Are we really okay doing this? They want to wait and see. They don't want to stick their neck out too far. They kind of, when I think of the hesitator, I think of we go to the beach every year, and there's always those signs for turtle crossing, so you have to slow down at the turtle crossings. And you see the turtle, and as soon as a car's coming, the turtle just stops and shrinks inside. That's what I think of when I think of the hesitator. I just see that turtle kind of going along, slow, 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 and then here's a car, and boop, we just pull into our shells. That's the first thing I think of for whatever reason, but they want to take things slow. They want to go just one step at a time, and that's kind of how they like change to be too. We just want to go slow, and we want to make sure it's okay. So when you're talking to that hesitator and you're trying to move them forward and encourage them to think of what's one simple thing you can do today that we can move forward. Could you risk today getting it wrong? To feel safe and be able to have that, the fear of failure. It's okay to get it wrong. So when you think about, are you the hesitator? Do you observe from a distance? Do you wait and see what's going to happen? It'll work itself out. It'll go away. It's okay. Or perhaps you don't do anything because you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to avoid sticking your neck out. Do you avoid risk because you don't want to be wrong? And then we're going to look at the obstructor. And this is the one who's, the obstructor is the one who's likely the uncooperative type. They are blatantly against change. They're usually not against the reason for the change, but they're fearful of going into the unknown and being wrong. They often say things like, and I'm sure you can think about the person at work or maybe yourself of, this isn't going to work. Why are we here? This is a waste of time. It's a waste of money. We've done this before. We don't even have this problem. Why are we even here? So they just want to stop everything, stop everybody in their tracks. So to encourage the obstructor, we want to ask them, could you at least have an open mind? Can you at least listen to what's being said? And if they can't, be for the change, could they at least not be against the change? Could they at least not be trying to rally the troops, and create dissension among everybody within the organization? So when you think about, there are situations, perhaps you are the obstructor. Are you uncooperative? Are you against change and growth? Are you fearful of the unknown and being wrong? Do you have a negative attitude, insisting that it's not going to work? Are you open to new ideas, or do you feel that change is just a waste of time? Are you even willing to admit when there is a problem or something that needs to be fixed? Do you verbalize your issues and your negativity and work against the change instead of, just kind of staying? So it's important that we understand in every situation we have a role to play. And we need to understand that even though we don't necessarily want to identify as the hesitator and the obstructor, they do have a role. And I think sometimes when I think of the obstructor, I think sometimes the obstructor is good for me because it does make me slow down for a minute and really look at things of like, okay, what do we need to do to create more buy-in? So we need to, everybody's opinion matters. Everybody's voice matters. So as people go through that and they identify their roles in the situation, they shouldn't feel ashamed or judged. We want to make sure that, when we're talking about getting people involved in diversity, equity, inclusion, we don't ever want anybody to feel like they're being judged or being judged by the way they feel about something. We want them to be able to express their voices and to express their feelings. So then we look at, and when you think about, ask yourself, where do you self-identify? Where do I self-identify in those roles? What is the role I'm playing when it comes to teamwork, personal growth, making everyone feel safe? What's my goal? What motivates my behavior? What's the belief system that's driving me? Or perhaps it's what's holding me back. It's not always what's driving us, but, what are my self-beliefs? What is my self-talk? We heard a lot today about that. I don't know what sessions you were in, but a couple that I were in, they really talk about that self-talk. Do you talk to yourself the way you talk to your friends and be encouraging? What's something I can do to move forward with a positive change? Our goal has to be, the common good for all of us. We've all heard the saying, united we stand, divided we fall. So when we can gather and respect all those opinions around the table, then we can be united. We know that there is no one in this room that is smarter than one of us. It's when we all come together. When we all come together as empowered women, that's when we can make that positive change. We make a difference when we work together. We want to bring everyone to the table because we are better when we're together. We can't move forward until everybody at the table can be completely honest and be completely honest with not only the table, but also with themselves inside. So you need to take a hard look around those people around you because there's wisdom in listening to those different perspectives without any judgment. And as we go through this journey, we're going to find that many people don't agree with us, right? We're all different. We all have different ideas. We all have different, even as women, you think, but we're all different. We all have differing, opinions, values. But we have to remember, as we learn and grow, we need to be able to empathize and to be able to value people's opinions and value their voice so that we can change and embrace that conversation. So awareness, which we've talked about that today too, awareness is the first step in making changes. So because each person's role is different, their level of awareness is going to be different, right? The pioneer, they're probably fully aware of the need for change and provide meaningful conversation and meaningful contribution to move the team forward. There aren't a lot of people who can identify as pioneers. Then there's the champion. The champion, they have awareness. They'll add value to the organization by communicating the change to the team and promoting awareness. They want to facilitate the people buying in and getting the vision of the organization, understanding so we can all move forward together. And the influencer, they're typically aware that there's a problem, but they'll support the change and rally the team, and move forward. And this is where a lot of people fall into that category, into that influencer category. Once they are aware there's a problem, they will, move along and they'll support the change. The hesitator isn't always fully aware. They may not recognize the problem exists, or perhaps they haven't been affected by a problem. And I think that's when it really happened. Like, even when at our work, we weren't even aware that this problem existed until we experienced it. And then it was like, oh my goodness, and then we went into kind of pioneer champion mode and, like, we've got to do something about this. But the hesitator, they're not quite sure where to start. They'll watch and wait and not sure how they feel about the change. And then the obstructor, even once they're aware of the problem, they might go along for a little bit, but most likely in the end, they're probably going to go back into their old ways. The staff that were involved were terminated immediately. But one of them initially admitted there was a problem and admitted it was wrong, but then went right back. So there you can see the role and you can see the pattern. And if you don't believe there's an issue with these things, with diversity, equity, and inclusion, then you're most likely an obstructor, because and we'll get into that a little bit further too, like, it's more than just a race issue. It's sexism, it's ageism, it's a lot of different things. So one of my favorite quotes is by John Maxwell: "You must know yourself to grow yourself." So when you look, what is your level of awareness? Do you know yourself? Do you completely understand your ethics, your beliefs? We've heard a lot today even about values, your attitude, and do you understand the role that you play in that pioneer, champion, influencer, hesitator, obstructor role? You can't just be in the room. You have to be fully present in that conversation. It's not enough to just sit at the table. And Gandhi also says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think that's a huge one for me. Like, if you want change, you have to be that change. But we all have that role to play, and we need to be able to communicate those different perspectives with respect and with those different roles and the different opinions. So I want to spend a couple minutes talking about empathy. And empathy, I think, is a big word right now, that we hear a lot about. And empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of one another. When you can put yourself in someone else's shoes for just one moment, you will begin to understand the true meaning of empathy, and your value of understanding each other will increase. We need to give each other that respect, the space, the understanding, because we're all going through this human experience together. We all have things going on. We all have stuff, and we need to be able to have a connection in order to work together. We have to be able to, when there's challenges, we have to view them as opportunities to learn and to grow and to make life better for all of us moving through our journey. We think about the past 2 years, we've had the challenges of COVID. We've seen political unrest. We've seen social injustice. And with media, we've been able to watch all these horrific and devastating events in real life, on camera. We had to come together to survive, to get through all of this together. And we need to have conversations, because we're all affected differently by those things. Each one of us, depending on where we're at in our lives. And we need to respect those differences, and we need to respect that each one of us moves through things differently and experiences differently. And we have to use those differences to complement one another, not to tear us apart, but again, to unite us and to help us move forward. We have to seize that opportunity to come together and to show compassion and empathy for one another. In spite of, the traumatic events, we have to look at what's inside us. So I think it's really important that we take the time to get to know people and to understand the people around you and to know what they're feeling and going through, especially the people we work with every day. We spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our families sometimes. So it pays us to understand and be able to come alongside them when they're going through hard times. And we want to be able to check in with each other, your coworkers, your family, your friends, and starting with that empathetic word goes a really, really long way in starting that conversation. So then we want to talk a little bit about engagement. So that, we go to work, and how many of us go to work and we smile and everything's good, we're happy, hi, how are you today? It's great, it's the sun shining, everything's wonderful. But you know what? Behind those faces, there are a million things that are going on in that person's mind. They might be broken and hurting inside and not willing to talk about it to anybody. And we have to be okay with, dealing with that and being able to say, I'm not okay. Maybe you are. Maybe you're dealing with something at home or dealing with something going on with your kids at school or, even maybe dealing with something at work that you don't know what to do about. Maybe it's relationship problems, financial problems, problems with your kids, problems with, maybe you're dealing with elderly parents. We become caregivers for people. We all have that stuff in our lives. It's that human experience thing again. We're all going through this together. So it's really okay to say, hey, are you really okay? Is it all right? Are you all right? And I know for me personally, I have come to work in the past 2 years on days I have not been okay. And it was good to know that I had people that I could openly say, I am not okay. I lost my dad 18 months ago. I lost my grandmother 4 months ago. I lost my mom a month ago. So it has been a lot. I was their primary caregiver. I took them everywhere. I was with them all the time. So it was really good for me to have those people at work that came alongside me and said, are you okay? Do you just need a hug today? And that hug felt good. It still feels good. But you have to be able to have that relationship with your coworkers to be able to admit, not all of them obviously, but be able to admit, I'm not okay. I need help today. We all have those issues that impact us. And you may not be able to leave those issues at the door when you walk in. You think about it when you get home from work. Do you leave the issues from work before you walk in that door? Not always. But our perception shifts. And in a perfect world, we would be able to leave those negative situations at the door and not worry about it. But that's not what happens. So our goal needs to be a place when a negative situation occurs, we all feel the hurt. We all feel that pain for one another. We want to create an environment where everyone can be supported, be themselves, be happy, maybe be sad, but ultimately, we're going to be more engaged and move the organization forward, move each other forward through our situations. And people tend to think, like I said, that diversity and equity inclusion, it's about race relations, and that's not all of it. That's part of it, but we also have to realize that there's stereotypes based on sex, that women can do things better than men can do things better than women, and that's not true. But then too, there's ageism, that some people, because of your age, you can do things better. And assuming that, whether it's too young or you're too old, we have to put that aside because we all bring something unique to the table. The truth is we all need each other, and that's, everyone has something to bring to the organization, and we have to be able to communicate, share ideas, accept our differences, while understanding and celebrating what we have in common as human beings. So we talk about communication and the importance of communication. So we have to consider how we communicate with one another. I really like the analogy, whether you're a thermostat or a thermometer. So you think about a thermostat, and a thermostat, that can be adjusted, right? It can turn the temperature up or down in a room, but it has it has that ability. But then we look at the thermometer, and all the thermometer can do is measure the temperature of the room. It has no control over whether it's too hot or too cold. It just measures the temperature. So as a thermostat, we have the ability to control our actions. We have the ability to control how we are responding to one another. And we literally set the temperature of every situation that we are in. We can't control what somebody else says in a situation, but we can certainly control how we respond. We can be that thermostat. So I want you to think about, are you a thermostat? Do you come to work and greet your coworkers? Do you say please and thank you? Are you aware of your nonverbal communications? Do you make an effort to ensure that your face-to-face communication is courteous and professional to everyone in the room? Do you make an effort to overcome and understand any type of communication barriers? Or are you that thermostat where you get frustrated and give up when you don't know what someone is trying to communicate? Are you too busy to take the time to listen to someone else? The boundaries thing for me today, I will listen, and these guys can probably attest to it. If somebody says, hey, can I come talk to you or whatever, I typically will, yeah, come on in. Are you too busy to take that time to listen? But then I'm listening to that, I'm like, maybe I need some boundaries. I'm not sure. But, do you see things that are not working and do nothing? Or do you listen to respond rather than to understand? When you are a thermostat, you help to create a workplace culture that is inviting and inclusive and results in a great place to work for all of us. It's wonderful when you work in a great place and you want to go to work. That's what, there was one of the sessions was something about Spark. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, well, I love my job. I'm not going to do that one. So, but when you're intentional about your relationships and asking the right questions and listening and showing empathy, you build trust and you build that mutual respect through communication. And it's important for us to realize we really need to take the time to be a thermostat in terms of setting the work culture and being engaged with everyone and treating everyone with respect and making sure that you understand that each one of us has value. We value people not just by saying it, but also by showing it. So we're talking about what can you do for a team member that can make them feel included and make them feel wanted at your organization or in your life. In an inclusive workplace, it brings awareness, empathy, engagement, education, regardless of experience or perspective. It's vital in making an organization impactful. So we all have that role to play. So I want you to think back a minute to those roles. What role did you identify with most? Are you a pioneer? Are you a champion, an influencer, a hesitator, an obstructor? If you're the pioneer, think about ways that you can recruit your coworkers to value everyone. Being a team starts with how you want to be treated. We all learned the golden rule, right? As kids, to treat others as you want to be treated. So, think about that. We have to respect the uniqueness of other team members. Just as every sport has player roles, whether it's the catcher, the shortstop, the pitcher, right field, left field, center field. We all have roles to play in our organizations as well. So, and we have to be able to appreciate those team members. And when there's division in the team, it's hard to move in the same direction, right? You're not necessarily going to win if you're all going in a different direction. So who does kayaks? Okay, so we have kayaks. And this reminds me of paddling a kayak. So I have two granddaughters. One of my granddaughters, when we're in the kayak, she's in the kayak with me, she will simply lay back. This is so relaxing, Mimi. I love it. As I'm like, I'm sweating. But I have my other granddaughter who is, Mimi, let me help. I want to help. But all of a sudden I'm like, wait, we're not. And then I realize she's paddling one direction, I'm paddling the other direction. It's like, no, this isn't working. So we both have to be going in the same direction to move forward. So we kind of think about that as our organizations too, to make sure we're all paddling in the same direction. We're all moving in the same way. And while it's okay to see things differently and still work together to meet the common goal. We're not meant to do this journey alone. As Mother Teresa said, and this is like one of my favorite quotes, I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, and together we can do great things. Each person brings a unique background, a unique perspective in thinking, influence, and ultimately an attitude that all contribute to that company culture. And I said at the beginning, I've worked with the same CEO for over 30 years, and we could not be more opposite in every aspect of our lives. We are complete opposites. But together, we bring forth a common goal that we work very well together. I actually had a friend of mine, she told me, this was before she knew me personally, but she said, yeah, when I first met you and Don, I thought you guys were married. And I'm like, and she goes, but then you got along too well, so I knew you weren't married. So I'm not quite sure what that means. But anyway, we need to understand that our attitude also plays a huge role in how we play. Whether we're the thermostat or the thermometer, we feel other people's attitudes. And our attitude can either be our very best friend or it can be our worst enemy. It is what draws people to us. It is what repels people away from us. It's the speaker of our present, but it is also the prophet of our future. And I love that too. It is the speaker of our present or the prophet of our future is our attitude. So I want to look at 7 things about our attitude to help us get a better understanding of how it impacts our lives. So number 1, our attitude is a choice. The attitude you have right now, in this minute, is a personal choice. The only person who can make you happy is you. And it's within you. And it goes back to that, my happy has deep roots. We don't want to get sucked into the vortex of that negative person. Number 2, our relationship sometimes is hard, and but you can't be successful without the help of other people. So that's why it's really essential to build those proper relationships with others in this really busy, crowded world, to work on those relationships. And Teddy Roosevelt once said, the most important single ingredient to the formula of success is knowing how to get along with people. So number 4, often our attitude is the only difference between success and failure. There's really little difference between people, but the big difference between us is our attitude. Or the little difference is the attitude. The big difference is whether it's positive or negative. So you want to think about that. Number 5, at the beginning of a task, our attitude at the beginning of a task is certainly going to determine its outcome more than anything else. And and a couple of the speakers I was in today talked about diets. So, if any of you have ever been on a diet, I'm always trying to be on a diet, but if any of you have ever been on a diet, your attitude at the beginning is certainly going to determine the success of whether you're going to exercise, whether you're going to eat well. If it's another diet, you're probably not going to be successful for more than a day or 2. I lost a pound, I'm having a cupcake. But if I'm excited about this and I want to make change, I want to feel better. I don't want to feel out of breath when I'm paddling the kayak with my grandkids in it, kind of thing. Then it's going to determine your outcome, your attitude at the beginning. And then number 6, our attitude can turn our problems into blessings. So our attitude can turn those difficult times into better times. And I do look at, even with the loss that I've had here in the past couple months, it's been a blessing because I'm rejoicing in that time. While I was in the moment spending all the time and dreading the phone call, now I treasure those times with my parents. So I'm turning that, I took that sadness has also brought me an extreme amount of joy, an extreme amount of blessings that I had in my life and opportunities to do that. We are choosing, it's the attitude that we are choosing. Sidlow Baxter says, every opportunity, I like quotes, have you noticed that? Sidlow Baxter says, every opportunity has a difficulty and every difficulty has an opportunity. So a consistent positive attitude will eventually allow you to rise above that problem or setback And once you do that, you're going to discover the incredible power that you have within yourself to move through those setbacks successfully. And that power is going to be what you hold on to that moves you through. Number 7, our attitude can give us an uncommonly positive perspective. So an uncommonly positive perspective will help us to accomplish those uncommon goals. You know, individuals who approach life with that positive approach, they don't accept the normal limitations. They want more. They want to empower. They want personal growth. And there aren't a lot of people that have that. You know, they're determined to walk the edge of their potential before they'll accept defeat. So the role you play, you know, your attitude and your potential go hand in hand. And that positive person understands that the journey of success is as enjoyable as the destination. It's all how much fun we put in it. So I'm kind of, I don't know what I'm at for time. Am I okay? 3:45. What time am I done? Okay, we're good. I'm going to be right on time. All right, so my wish for you today is for you to leave here to be a pioneer, to be a thermostat, and to be that positive attitude for your team that pushes forward with positive change and implements, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion in a way that furthers your goals and mission. And the joy is in having something to aim for, to have those goals, to know what you're working towards. So I want you to think about, you know, as we're closing up here today, that together we can all win. Together we can all be successful. And there are so many benefits to bringing everyone to the table and hearing voices that might be different than yours and hearing that perspective that might be different than yours. Because when we come together, when we listen to each other. So we talk about the change really starts with you, and that's me. But I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that you can walk away with something of value from this today, even, you know, to identify your roles. And you can go home and say to your children or your partners and be like, you right now are being an obstructor, and I can't have that negativity in my life. So, but I wish you all to have a wonderful evening, and I hope you enjoyed today, and have a great night.
We have a couple minutes. Does anybody have any questions for Stacey before we conclude?
Hi.
I'm wondering, where did you get the model, the 7 or the 5 behaviors? Is that a model that you developed?
No, it is actually, so my certification on diversity comes from, they just changed the name. It's Empowered Living with Paul Martinelli. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but that's who initially introduced the PCIHO model. Yep. It's really interesting to me. But when you start really applying it, it's like, oh, yeah.
And I think it's helpful to address questions and the issues change. So if you know you're working with those 5 different personalities, it's helpful to build your case around what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think too, and I have some coworkers here who have been trained, that I've done this training with them a couple of times at work, but it also helps a little bit to be able to come alongside them and be like, okay, so I see you're a little bit hesitant here, and to try to create that buy-in and bring them alongside. Anything else?
Thank you. What a great way to